unanimously. Thank you. Item 33, discuss and consider action directing staff to amend an ordinance providing for the name, composition, and the powers and duties of the Public Arts Commission. Assistant Parks and Rec Director Hayden. Welcome back.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. I am the staff liaison for the Public Arts Commission. And tonight, the Leander Public Arts Commission has a few recommendations in front of you for discussion and consideration. The Commission believes that adding an additional 2 to 4 commissioners to the group would assist them in planning and hosting art events and activities for the community. The Commission would like to expand to include all cultural and diverse events, including the MLK event, Juneteenth, Diwali, Cinco de Mayo, etc., to include additional events in the future. The Commission would also like to change their name to include culture to the Leander Public Arts and Culture Commission, encompassing its expanded focus. And the Leander Public Arts Commission unanimously approved all 3 of these recommendations at their regular meeting on October 12th, 2022. Commissioner Kowitsky is in attendance as well. I'm not sure that he has anything prepared, but if you have any questions for him, he's here with us tonight.
Thank you. Commissioner, did you want to say anything? No. Okay. We appreciate you being here. Did you want to make a motion on this or say anything?
I can make a motion to approve.
Second.
Just a little bit of
Oh,
clarification.
sorry. Go ahead.
Exactly. Because we'll be bringing back an ordinance amending to the next meeting, so exactly how many are you doing? 2 or are you doing 4? Addition to the...
Steve, can you talk to what the preference of the commission is for how many board members to be added and why?
Steve Kowitsky. Good evening. I brought this sheet up. This is the reds are basically our subcommittees that deal with all the different deals that we do, including booth events, ongoing items, other events. Right now, we only have 6 people on the board. One's vacant. We have a lot of people that travel during the summer, and it's a big time for events. And so our subcommittees look very bare, and it's hard to man booths and stuff like that. I know that increasing the number is sometimes makes a quorum difficult, more harder, but I think increasing this number either by 2 more or 4 more will help us get the staff or the people that we need to do these activities and be able to include them more. So, yeah. So I know that talking to some of you guys before, you were saying something about the more that's hard to get the quorum. So that's why we put it to 2 or 4, letting you guys decide on that.
So I have a question. I'm not sure who would answer this. I don't know if it's Kelsey or what all the items that are being asked for. Can't LPAC already do that? I mean, the events, they can participate in any of the events, but everything that I'm hearing, it sounds like changing from an arts commission to an events commission. And you can already participate in the events.
We're not changing it to an events. We do a lot of events in our commission anyway. The culture part is just so we want to extend to having more events that are more culturally involved. Okay. And that's why we wanted to add the culture to the name.
So isn't that where, but the events themselves, you make recommendations to do the events, and then I guess you recommend them to Mr. Tummons and then to us, or, you can already do that. I'm not sure what we're trying to achieve by making all the changes.
Well, I would like to jump in here for a second. In the ordinance, it lays out that they do a lot of cultural events, and I feel like there is a misnomer that people feel like when they're applying, they're just applying because they want to do public art, and the cultural aspect gets lost. So I feel like from a marketing perspective, adding cultural really is what you were defined to do in the beginning, just nobody realizes. Mr. Timmons.
So as far as having it in the name, is that, because I'm kind of addressing all of it, because there's a lot.
We just wanted to add that culture to the name.
Okay, well, that's not the only thing that's being asked, though.
No, ma'am.
So that's why I'm saying there's a lot being asked.
Yes.
So I'm addressing all of it.
Right.
Yeah.
There are 3 different things that are being asked. One was for the name change to go from Leander Public Arts Commission to Arts and Culture, which is the culture part is already written when I went and looked at the original ordinance and every ordinance that's been updated since then. That's a part of the ordinance, but like the mayor said, it appears that a lot of people think it's just public art, and this will help them be cohesive in how they talk about their branding. Also from that meeting, the commissioners did feel like there's more responsibility when someone is an actual commissioner as opposed to simply a volunteer. And so that is why they felt it was necessary to request. 4 was the request for additional people to be added, but the compromise was 2, that they could at least work with 2 additional. But the original ask that I remember, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, that y'all discussed was adding 4 additional commissioners because they would have a higher level of responsibility, and that would be understood coming into the commission, that you would have more responsibility to show up to the different things that they have going on and participate, as opposed to just a volunteer that is doing it. And because cultural events are written into the ordinance, cultural activities, but it hasn't been done, that's why they wanted to outline it for everyone, that is also a part of the change that they're requesting, that it become a more active part of their commission, since it hasn't been an active part, even though it's written in the original ordinance. So it's not really asking for a lot compared to what's already in the ordinance, but those were the reasons for the change that the board discussed at the meeting that I was at. Hopefully that clarifies it better.
Mr. Timmons.
It does. As far, go ahead.
No, go ahead. If you had.
I was just going to ask about the events. I mean, these, again, the events are, we're already doing the events, and that's great. So I don't think you have to have a request for the events.
Well, it's not a request for more budget. It's just saying these are things we're interested in doing. They could do a small event at the library that doesn't cost anything. They're just out there. It reads to me like they're just clarifying. I don't understand the controversy.
Okay.
Maybe I have a question that might clarify. So for MLK, we had an MLK planning committee.
Mm-hmm.
Would this supersede that, this LPAC or whatever it's
Well,
called?
I think that's
They
one of
would.
the things that
Okay.
will need to be clarified through this. And Councilwoman Thompson's correct. In not only the original and then the update that I worked with Paige and her staff and at that time, the Public Art Commission in 2018, we added some things, we changed some things around, but definitely the cultural and artistic endeavors and projects remained in that. So they always had that ability, even under Section 114.034, powers and duties, they have the ability to conduct those public nonprofit programs to further development and public awareness and interest in fine arts and the performing arts, which I think is what their intent is. So from the Parks and Recreation side, we are not opposed to any of the 3 things, whether you want to change the name or adopt a name or add to the name. The commission members, that's fine. I'm more probably, I don't want to say concerned, because I think we can probably get there, but I think there's just a lot of processes that we need to discuss, because when you add a group to be responsible for events that have city dollars and city name attached to them, you want those events to be highly successful and a community-wide type event. And I think, like I said, I think we can get there, but there are processes from not only budgeting, but purchasing, RFPs, RFQs, procurement, and it takes special people, and I don't mean that citizens can't do that, but it just takes a lot of energy, a lot of effort, a lot of knowledge to be able to do that. So if you go from 7 to 11, I think you're already looking at 4 people down currently now. Hopefully that will energize some people, but it's still a volunteer-based group. And so I'm wanting to make sure that I would want to make sure, or hopefully you would want to make sure, that we have these processes in place, that people are trained, so there's not, when audits come about, there's not something that's coming back to hurt or bite the Public Art Commission at all. We don't want that to happen. None of us do. So I just think there needs to be some more thought working with our finance, our purchasing department, procurement department, those type of things, so we can make sure that everybody is on the same page as we continue to move forward. Does that make sense?
Honestly, no. I'm sorry, with all due respect.
Okay.
I mean, the Arts Commission has done Art Fest before. They've done festivals before. And this doesn't read to me like they're suggesting that they take over all of the staff job. They're saying that, some of the planning goes to them, because in the ordinance, it does say they're responsible for cultural events and activities. So it feels like the cultural events should fall under LPAC and not Parks Board.
Okay.
To me.
Right.
And I don't see anywhere where it's suggested that there's any change in budget or oversight. So I'm not
Those are some
understanding
of the discussions that I
concerns.
haven't been a part of, so I don't know what
Well, neither
their
have I. I'm
intent
going
is.
off of what I'm reading and what I
But
heard in the meeting.
my understanding was they were planning or wanting to take over all of the events from conception all the way through production. If that's not the
let's-
case, then we need to, again, take that time to sit down and talk through how these things work.
Let's ask Mr.
Sorry.
Kowitsky. What was
Sorry.
the intent, Mr. Kowitsky?
Just to be more productive with these guys, and include a lot more different culture events, like including cookings, culinary events,
Okay.
all sorts of different,
There's a specific
just wanna
mention
be-
by the chair for additional culinary events that we haven't been able to do, some additional theater arts events that haven't been able to be done. So it wasn't an intent to take over, or I guess I don't understand what's being said there, but the intent really was to make it clear that we want to involve all cultural and art background, not just a focus on sculptural art, as it has been to some of the commissioners' points, and not just a focus on some public displays, like in the park that they have seen. They want to be more all-encompassing. And that's what the goal was, to do that. So
So I have a question for Mr. Thomas.
Me too.
So currently, what is the Parks Board's role in, like, the 4th of July Festival?
Correct. They're part of our subcommittee under our recreation events and athletics subcommittee, and they help us plan, evaluate. They've been a part of the process of evaluating this past year's Liberty Fest and what we can do to make changes in the future.
So couldn't we just do that same thing for cultural events and say that it's LPAC that gets there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's the way I
So-
read this.
Okay. That's great. I appreciate the clarification.
Have there been any events that were proposed that were not, that were requested that were not done? Have they proposed to do any events?
Steve, want to take that? Any event
Has
outside
who
of MLK
proposed?
and
Yeah,
Juneteenth?
well, you mentioned the culinary and some of the others. Has there been any proposal or any recommendation to do any events and then they were denied?
it's not a case of denial. I think it was just not having enough people involved with it. We actually were talking about doing a barbecue cook-off before the end of this year, but unfortunately, we didn't have enough people to participate or get involved with that.
Okay. So I guess what I'm trying to understand is that you have the ability to recommend events, and I don't think anybody does events better than our Parks Department and the Chamber of Commerce.
Correct.
And especially combined together. And with their direction and asking for volunteers or using committees, whether it be Arts Commission or any of them, I mean, there's no, I don't think that there's, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's any limitation on that. People can volunteer and participate in any of those. So I'm still a little,
I think it's more just clarification. Like I said, we just want to be more involved with these events throughout the city, so.
Okay. Okay.
Clarification is really important here. So, so does LPAC already have the ability to, I guess, to create their own event and go do those things? And we can, do they need council approval or approval to go and do anything like that right now?
No, we don't. Yes, we are able to do events without council approval. We have our own little budget and so forth, so.
Staff, are you saying, is that correct? I don't know the difference. I'm looking for
correct.
clarification.
So Arts Fest that they held, this was the second annual, we didn't have to have council approval to do that.
Okay.
That's correct.
Do you currently have a seat at the table when the city is planning events that are outside of ones that you created as LPAC?
No.
Okay.
I think what I'm hearing in the clarification would be for city staff is that instead of using the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board as a subcommittee on cultural events, that we would lean on the Public Arts Commission to be a subcommittee for cultural events.
That was my reading of this. Am I misunderstanding?
That was the reading of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would assume that if it was a full-blown budget, they're taking over thing, it would be a much heftier agenda item than just this.
Well, there is a budget there. We approved, like 3 years ago, we approved a bunch of money to go to that board for public art.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to make sure, like, that's what we approved it for then. And now, like, let's say we want to, maybe that, can those funds be used? No offense to anybody, by the way, but can those funds be used to go have an event rather than the beautification and like,
Well, have those
the public
funds
art.
been used for events?
They do have a line item for concerts and events in the Public Art Fund.
okay.
It's not as significant or substantial as the public art identified for capital projects, but they do have an
Okay.
events budget. Correct.
I guess, Mike, because as far as adding a couple of people and changing the name, I have zero problem with any of that. I guess where I just want to make sure that there's coordination effort is between Parks, and especially with all the work that Parks has done of creating these rules of procedure to make sure that the city's represented properly, that the public arts, or whatever you're going to name it, and the Parks Department are working in lockstep, that there's no toes stepping on, or if, there's an event that's being proposed that it doesn't work calendar, or it's not on the same day, or any of those coordination efforts. That's really where and to Mark's point, or Mr. Tummons' point, it's a communication effort, and and I think that just needs to be worked out at the staff level. I mean, I don't care if you have 65 people, as long as everybody's.
Well, I think we should though, because there's only, like, we're considering putting people on tonight, right? And I don't even know, there might be one extra, but I know there's not two extra people that are being considered. So, to be asked to put two for something more, and there's hardly enough people to fill the spots right now, I would worry a little bit
think
about that.
that's where that branding comes in, though, because I mean, we just saw a bunch of people in the last meeting who are putting together Diwali festivals, who would love to be included if they felt there was something cultural, and they just don't realize that that's what's in the ordinance because it's not what's in the name. So, Ms. Crabtree, if we approve expanding the commission today, would those seats have to wait until April to be filled, or could we do a special filling of those before the end of the year?
We would need to re-advertise to
Okay.
get individuals in. We could make a special allowance this time because we were expanding the board to do that, as well as to advertise again for TERS, because we had no applicants apply
Okay.
for TERS and Development Authority, and that one is going to come into a possible quorum issue.
Okay, thank you.
So, can I ask a question
course.
from what I'm hearing? Because Mayor Pro Tem had made a straight motion with. So this is what I have at the moment, is to bring back an ordinance amending Article 1.4, Division 2, Public Art Commission, to change the composition. If you can still clarify for me would you desire that, to change the name to Public Art and Culture Commission to be inclusive of all cultural and diverse events, and to ask the public, I apologize, the Parks and Recreation Department to use Public Art and Culture Commission as an advisory board for cultural arts event, for cultural events.
Yes,
That makes it clear.
Two or four.
Because I was really confused
Two or
about that.
four people.
And I wanted us to be able to discuss and have that discussion of what is
Yeah.
the intent. So thank you.
Does that
So you
provide
just say it.
clarity?
Thank you, council, too.
It's in your motion.
So
You gotta say-
I'm curious why that wasn't brought up when this was in front of the Public Arts Commission. Like, what exactly that intent was, if it was just a seat at the table, if it was budget. Sorry, not to put y'all on the spot, just I don't understand why that's coming up now, if it was a concern.
I think that at the meeting, they were really excited that this was in front of them, and I
Okay.
don't think that they talked about details or what that looked like.
Okay.
And they were just quick to make the motion to say, yes, we want to do that.
Okay.
Absolutely. So there was no questions or, I mean, I think that's what I witnessed at the meeting,
Okay.
was that it was just a quick action to say, yes, this is definitely something we want to do. So there was no specifics.
Okay.
When it was brought up with the
Thank
group.
you. So now, learning experience for all of us, the next time something like this comes up, make sure that the boards have that clarification so we don't run into this, I think. So there was a motion.
How many people are on the P and Z right? Oh, Mike's got some, I'm sorry.
Just a question. Is there any clarification that council may want to make in your direction about this role that Parks Board currently has and that shifting to Art Commission, how we're parsing that? Does council want to?
What do you mean? She added it to the motion. What
So
specifically?
Mark had presented that a subcommittee of the Parks Board currently provides that advisory capacity to some events. Are we sort of splitting that between the Parks Board
I'd say at the
advises on some
at the
events, and
discretion
Art
of the
Commission?
Parks Department.
Yeah.
I think it's fine as discussion. Okay, so we've got a motion and a second, right?
What, are you looking for a clarification? Is that
She
like,
needs 2 people or 4 people or 3 people.
Oh, we're still on that.
It has to be added.
I still say
believe
0
y'all had
extra
asked
people.
for 4,
Yeah.
right? You all had asked for 4?
Yes, ma'am, 2 or 4.
Okay.
How many people are on every other board that we have?
Active Adults has a ton.
Okay.
What are we at
The
Active
tip-
Adults?
Most of
Sorry.
the boards have 7.
7,
Yeah.
right.
That's pretty much the standard. There are others that have more, as well as, like TERS has less.
Right.
I'll make my motion for 2.
So now we have a motion and a second?
We need a second.
We need a second still?
Yes.
I'll second. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Passes 4-3.